Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another stream. It's another Thursday, and this time we're going to be talking about story in advertising as well as doing a Q&A and just generally discussing how story works in adverts and how we can analyze it and use it to improve our own stuff. So let's get a sound off in the chat if you guys can see and hear. Yeah, I realized I began with my mic off and I just redid everything. Cool. As always, I have a presentation ready, and this time we're gonna look at a couple of videos. So before you guys take this down, this is for educational purposes, so I really hope we don't get muted or anything gets taken down. But if that should happen, a lot of the stuff we discussed is already in the chat, or I'll try and alternate between the video and myself talking and try not to talk over the stuff. Because what will happen is it'll get muted and it'll get muted. So just double check that you guys can hear me. And once we're good, we can get started. Oh, it's showing through. Can see in here, dope. All right. I just need to make sure. Yeah, cool. Okay. So just give like a minute or so. Let me just fix something here real quick. Make sure all my tabs are correct. Make sure everything is okay. All right, so it's cool how these two overlap. I can see in here. Cool. All right. I'm back. So let's do this. I think the sooner we can jump in, the better, especially for guys rewatching. So in case of anything, just sound off in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on it while speaking, and So this time we're talking about story in advertising as requested by Jotham, who's here. So we'll be, feel free to also update us on anything you've learned in the process. Last week we were talking about, or rather over the week we were talking about a few ads that Kenyan and from abroad. I've got them here as well, and we're discussing how to break down the story that's being told within these ads. So just to give you guys a run through of, just to help you catch up, let's take a look at some things, some slides. So story in advertising. So the general idea of what we're doing here is just like what I was discussing in the other stream about story, is that we are trying to practice the methods that we're learning. Aside from trying to create new things, we also need to use existing things as case studies and as examples so that we can prove that the things that we're doing, the things that we're learning are actually applying in some way to the things that we see. Because generally speaking, there's different ways to explain the same thing, and you have the same idea being broken down into different methods by different people. So as you continue to read stuff, watch stuff, you start combining all these different things. And the main thing you want to do is to practice everything that these people are saying, everything that you've come to learn. And that's the main goal we're looking for here. Now remember, we're working backwards and we're trying to prepare how to work forwards. Like story, we can look at, hey, what up? Like story, we can use, we can always look at a film and then say, okay, it's a 3-story structure. The beginning is here, the middle is here, the end is here. it's a lot easier. It's very easy to do that. But when you're just looking at a blank piece of paper and you need to write a story and come up with all this stuff, it's not really about this is the beginning, middle, and end. You have a whole bunch of other things to think about. So while we're doing all this, we also need to remember that we're working backwards, that the methods we're using to work backwards don't necessarily apply when we're working forwards. The methods don't work the same way, but the ideas that they produce are the same. And ideas are the biggest thing I'll be talking about here. It's probably the word of the day, I guess. So let's check this out. Case studies. Why do we do case studies? They help us to contextualize what we're learning. So like I've already said, you've read a book about 12 principles of animation, so you're gonna watch some cartoons and look for how those 12 principles are applied so that you can also better understand how they work. You can now know, squash and stretch didn't just mean the face. It also meant the whole body can squash and stretch, or just the stomach can squash and stretch. You start to learn that it's just a general thing as opposed to what you initially thought. So yeah, it helps you contextualize what you're learning. You can test out your own theories. So as you're going along, you've probably thought of a few things. You've probably thought of that. As you are going along, you've probably thought of a few things, and you're looking to test it and see, okay, wait, these guys keep saying that jump cuts are bad, but I remember seeing a jump cut in this movie. And you'll go watch the movie and see where the jump cut was put in, and then try and test your own theory and see, wait, this guy, is it really that bad? Maybe jump cuts are good in a certain way. And just by going through that whole exercise, we're not necessarily trying to, stroke our own egos and prove that we're smart and all that. We're just trying to make sure that the stuff that we're thinking about is actually right. Because if it's right, you add it into the book and you memorize it. And if not, you throw it out and try to figure out where you went wrong and try to improve. So yeah, you're testing out your own theories. You're also trying to refine the method. So the same thing I've said. The way you'll now understand new things in a new way. You'll also test out your theories and find the ones that are wrong and right. You'll now take that new knowledge and refine the method you've been using so far and the method that you're going to use from now on. And just by doing all that, you should hopefully improve your understanding in the project or the concept that you're working on. This sounds all complicated and fancy, but it can literally happen in 2 minutes. You're just sitting there, you see something, you think about it, and you realize, so next time I'm sitting on my comp, I need to remember to try this, that, and you're done. And you've learned something new, and you just continue progressing. So it's kind of like just putting towards what you might already be doing. But once you know it, once you're conscious of it, you can be way more efficient with it. And now you can begin to connect different ideas together and take what John Truby said, and Robert McKee, and Joseph Campbell, and David Alex. Take all the stuff you've read and all the stuff I've been saying and all the stuff you've been seeing on Nerdwriter and Wisecrack, all these videos. Connect all these ideas together and just connect them all together in your own way. Create your own method and work with it. And the most other thing about this, about connecting ideas and connecting your workflow and building your workflow, is that you're also going to build a mental library that's connected to the ideas you're building. And in this case, if you're saying, okay, from now on, I'm going to pay attention I've already used 12 principles of animation. So let's continue that. If you have the 12 principles of animation and you decide from now on, I'm going to follow them, understand exactly what they mean, and memorize completely. Okay, so now let's connect ideas with what we can see around us, and let's build a mental library. If someone says squash and stretch, now every time you watch a movie and you see things happening and you see, there's squash and stretch, you'll put it in your mental library in that little file, in the folder, in your big file of ideas. You're going to put it in the folder of squash and stretch. Basically, you're the ideas you get is like what you're going to name the folders as you put them inside your file of ideas. So you have your squash and stretch one, you have your easing one, you have your acting stuff, you have your depressing stuff, animation stuff. All of them are just, all these systems are just helping you categorize all these ideas. And this makes them a lot more accessible. So now when you're thinking about, I need to think of a plot twist where it's an attack on ally. And that's something we mentioned in the story thing. It's an attack on ally is a story method of sorts, a story device. And it helps you just to show that some of the character's friends are not happy with what he's doing. So when you're writing and you're thinking, I need an idea of an attack on ally, if you've been watching a lot of movies while thinking about what attack on ally is, when you're now in that moment, it becomes a lot easier to now open that open that drawer. Attack on ally, yeah, there was that one in Seven, there was that one in LA Confidential. There's, you just start to pick them up and see what you can copy or what you can build off of. So that's what we're doing in the case studies here. We are going to take a specific idea I'm going to try to introduce, and we're going to try and build a library, a mental library of things that apply to advertising and story in general. And by looking at the 13 videos we're going to look at next, we should be able to contextualize the stuff I'm going to talk about and hopefully help you understand what's going on. And the most important thing is, don't take my word for 100%. What I'm doing is just trying to put things in, make sense of things. And for you now, it's to take this and apply it to what you know and what you're learning. And that should take you to the next level. Kazi kwako. All right, so hopefully that's all made sense. Are we still there? Before we move on to the next segment that might get blocked out. Oh, yes, the chat lag. I've spoken about this before. Let's switch over to this so that I can... I was supposed to add one more slide, which I forgot. And it's this. If there's one thing you're going to take away from all of this, it's build your mental library and make sure it's anchored in a method, in the method that you're using to work. So if you think animation should be done blocking, spline, polish, then watch stuff thinking about blocking, spline, polish. And if you're going to change the ideas, remember to recontextualize that stuff. Still there. Yay. Okay, cool. There was one more slide I forgot to add. Which was the thing we were talking about, how to dissect the ad. But it's okay. We'll just cover it right now. Here is a story I picked up from yet another random book I was reading. It was something about advertising, and it was a blog, I believe. And he was talking about how he was asked, how did you come up with the great ideas that went into this advert? It's an ad he did for Coca-Cola a very long time ago, probably earlier than 2007, which is when this video is uploaded. Might have been earlier, but let me just unmute this video here and then hope I don't get taken down. Picture in picture. Okay, so the first one is this ad. Why did I start with the guys most likely to kill? Anyway, Coca-Cola. I don't know what that is. Anyway, it's based on this GTA idea. It had a really cool song as well. Back to you. Ba, 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 ba. Anyway, I can also say, instead of killing myself, that's 30 seconds. That should be within the time. So go and check out the rest of this video. It also has some really cool stuff. It goes way over the top and gets to the ending, which is just the cook side of life. So what's happening here? This ad was really dope. He did a reference to GTA. Whoa, you guys shouldn't see my recommendations. This was a reference to GTA blatantly. You have the mini map there. You have the guy driving around and chaos happening. And this dude was interviewed and he was asked, "How did you come up with this? I mean, you've won so many awards. Everyone loves what you did here. Guys are looking at the animation and thinking, damn, that's dope animation, blah, blah, blah. How did you do this?" Now, keep in mind, this is a bit before Coke's ads were like over the top. This is when they really started. And his response was that a lot of the time when he joined a new agency and there were guys who just really didn't enjoy doing work for Coke, because Coke wanted new original ideas. Coke wanted new original stuff every single time, and it was really hard to impress those guys. So they used to hand over the work a lot of the time. It was a project that used to jump around a lot. So it was his turn. He was just new he was just the new creative director, and he was forced to. Oh, okay, cool. He is the new creative director, and he was forced to work on this project. And he was told, "Yo, dude, since you're new here and you're this fancy new creative director, so you work on this Coke thing." And yeah, they gave him this, and this is what he did. This is what he came up with. He said he was just playing GTA, and he thought, why don't I just turn this sort of idea into an ad? Definitely way more went into this, but that's the general story behind it. And he got, as I said, he won a lot of advertising awards for it. I think I saw this in an advertising blog. And got pretty famous. He's done a few more creative stuff after this. Look for him if you would please. It would be a really good idea. So really cool ad. So but the general idea here is also what he was saying was, it didn't have to be Coke, it didn't have to be could have been Tusker, I guess. Like, the idea he pushed here could have been for anything. It's a dude who's just really enjoying life, and Coke is a big contributing factor to it, I guess. It could have been really for anything, but Coke had the budget, the time, they had access to the creative director who was capable of not only coming up with the idea, but also pulling it off in the time and with the budget they had. I mean, this was just another ad for them. It wasn't really we have a lot of money, let's do something crazy. It was just the same usual budget they have for ads, but he wanted to do something over the top with some animation. And yeah, got famous for it. Got really cool stuff going on. Animation is dated for sure. No, not really. I think it holds up pretty well, despite trying to mimic an old video game. Cool. So that's the Coca-Cola ad, and what we're going to be discussing from here is the slide I forgot to add. Is we're going to be looking at the ads as what the company is trying to say, and how they used the specific story to achieve that. And that's a way it's gonna be working backwards, but ideally for you guys watching, it's going to help you when you're now sitting on one side of this trying to fill in the gaps. It should be a bit easier once you have these in your head. So as we had already said, the client here, Coca-Cola, wanted a really unique advertisement to show off, just to do their usual buy Coke and be happy. And for this, he used GTA. He used the concept of GTA and how even a character in a video game still drinks Coke, and that Coke makes him really awesome in the game, I guess. So that's how we're going to be looking at it. This is what the brand wanted, and this is where we ended up. So yeah, that's the first one. So next up is actually what I should have started, what I wanted to start with. It's the Betika ads. These ones are really funny. Man, these guys are just look like so much fun to be around and to party with. So the idea behind the Betika ads is we have these really cool dudes who are partying, and it's this, we sort of have this zoom out when the wife comes in and opens the curtains, and we have this zoom out. You can see that they're actually just in the house messing around, and it's a really lads moment that they're playing with here. So they're like, get ready to ball if you win the cash. And yeah, at the end, the final sequence is now them actually doing the said partying. It's a nice simple ad. I really like it. Betika here are really, if you wanted to reduce this entire ad into one sentence, what would that sentence be? We did this in the group with Jotham and Yogi. It was pretty interesting. I think we came down and we agreed that the idea is that, once you're bowling, you can really have fun, especially with your friends. And let's tell that story by showing this over-the-top crew of friends who are willing to do just about anything, who are just like really... I mean, they already look like fun. These guys look like, as soon as we win that money, these guys are definitely going to be the kind of guys you want to be with when you're celebrating. So I think they were really pushing that idea of all the fun you're going to have, especially with your boys, when you win the cash. So Betika was saying, winning, get ready to win. Betika wanted to say, get ready to win. And they did this by telling the story of a group of really fun friends who just can't wait to win the money. Yeah, and they get into a really funny scene to do it. So if you remember earlier, we said that by implying a premise, by starting out with a short sentence like that, you already start to imply scenes after that. Like the example we did of if someone is saving X, you're already setting up an antagonist and such things. So in this case, we've already said a bunch of fun guys can't wait for themselves to win money. And notice that in the description we've given, we're talking about the guys themselves, but we don't actually have her in the description of in our short description of the ad. And that's something that I find is important to this sort of case study workflow, is when you really crunch things down, it's you bring it down to the things that are really important to pull off the idea and the message that you're trying to pull off here. So we can see that, yeah, okay, the lady is there, but she's serving a purpose, and her purpose is to show that they can't wait. That impatience they have, she's just there to do the reveal of, it's not that they've actually won, it's that they can't wait to win. So she's sort of like a plot device, if you will. So she's part of the description, but she's not actually in the description. So this gives us that space to, it could be anything. It could be she opens, it could be the mom comes and opens the door and they're just in the basement. But okay, that would be an American audience. In Kenya, we don't really have basement dwellers. We don't have basements. So it would probably be just like a mom busting into the room of a bunch of kids or something. I don't know. What do Kenyan kids do these days? Whatever it is. Yeah, it helps you to push things that way. So another great thing about thinking about things that way is you can now do variations. Once you've settled on the idea that it's just a bunch of really cool guys, they can't wait, and their plan is to just have fun in advance, we start to see these new ways of presenting the same idea. Like, it's the same sort of sequence. Like, these guys are like, as in, like, can't you see we're just having fun? Why are you interrupting us? And she's like, come on, guys, like, really, you need to stop. This is getting out of hand. Yeah, again, she's selling again that you guys haven't even won the cash yet. Like, chill. And yeah, a spouse is a really good idea for pushing this, because now we can start to ask, what's the target audience? It's probably guys of this age, and guys who are probably going to definitely party once they win. And someone of that type would have a spouse or a significant other, or at least at that age range. Majority of them have some significant other who will tell them, yo, stop this shit. Like, stop being dumb. Like, what is this? So yeah, once you have the general idea of the flow you want to do, it becomes also a lot easier to now interpolate it and start to make versions. So now we have here version 2, which is we're no longer saying this guy can't wait to buy a car or this guy can't wait to party. We're just saying these guys can't wait to have fun. So by also keeping it a bit vague, we can say here they can't wait to party. Here they can't wait to drive around in Costo, which is a general idea. Yeah, and we're really selling how over the top these guys are. So get ready to win big. Actually, get ready to win big, yeah. They're getting ready to win by literally going crazy and just doing this stuff. So yeah, the wife is even there. But dancing with them, which is really funny. So yeah, these videos are also exactly 30 seconds. So they did some really good work padding in the time without making it just feel like they're wasting time. Mbidi, yeah, shout out to Mbidi for working on this stuff. Really dope. Nice color work, nice directing. But you guys get the general idea, yeah? I really like these ads. They're really nice. Betika. So yeah, we have the two. So once those are done, we have now the links that were shared in the group. Once I made a call, asked guys to share some links on what they like, what they'd like me to talk about, and stuff we also talked about in the group. So I'm gonna give a general summary of what we talked about and also give my thoughts on it. Yeah, but generally speaking, I hope we're still on the same page. If you guys have any questions, any comments, anything that doesn't make sense or contradicts, feel free to drop it in the comment as well. I'll also address it. Why not? I mean, that's why we're here, right? Okay, so the next thing I want to go to is this old ad from Apple, which is pretty controversial. Let's see. Yeah, it's basically saying, yeah, you can just watch the ad, guys. I don't want no trouble. So yeah, they basically said Apple is introducing this new comp, and they're like, and you'll see why. And you'll see why you should care about it. Whoops, my bad. Sorry, guys. All right. Forgot something. I forgot some chicken in the oven. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so Apple. So we were showing the Macintosh ad, and now we're trying to compare in our new system. We are talking about how a company was trying to communicate X, and they did this by telling the story of Y. So that's also a challenge in itself. We need to reduce this entire ad into one sentence, which I'd say is they were trying to say that their new computer is really revolutionary. It's so revolutionary that it's going to change how we perceive computers, which is also the sentence they have over here. on January 24th. Yeah, you'll see why. You'll be like 1984, and it was actually a pretty big deal when the Apple computer dropped. They were introducing fonts, colors, some really interesting stuff. Don't quote me though, but yeah, the general. So how do we introduce this? We can say that they were trying to say this is revolutionary, and they did this by telling the story of a rebel who crashes through a brainwashing facility and throws a hammer through a screen. So as we've said, now that we've managed to reduce the story, let's see what's been implied by it. We've said that we have a rebel, so by that we need to first introduce or rather they needed to introduce who the people themselves are, and then so that they can show who the rebel is. And they just did this by doing the contrast between the people who are walking here and their faces. They all don't have anything on their heads, and this guy is like basically on a mask, which is pretty crazy. But they all look the same. They don't have eyebrows, no mustache, nothing. And this lady, actually, who's like all gold, bronze, with red as well, comes crashing through. That almost looks like a computer on her shirt. She comes crashing through and basically throws this hammer through the man's face and says, hey guys, don't listen to this dude, man. I'm like bringing you the truth. And everyone's like, God, blimey. They're all like freaking shocked that their screen has been broken. So that's that general idea that's just been explained in a really abstract way. And once again, it's by implying rebels and such, we're also showing that there's got to be some sort of security guy chasing after them, right? So yeah, that was pretty. This is a pretty cool ad. It was pretty bold. What was bold about it was just the imagery, especially for the time, 1984. Yeah. Then there's this other Cannes ad, which was the Three Little Pigs, which is an advert by The Guardian, which was the first post by Jotham. And it basically shows that apparently the big bad wolf is like some controversial story. And so they're trying to show, here even literally on the screen, that there was probably more to the story of the Three Little Pigs than was let on. And yeah, it gets pretty conk and pretty interesting. It's pretty high budget. There's the VFX of the pigs, although it's very few shots, very well calculated shots. It's also a crowd shots. They also have these sort of motion graphics, stock footage. Like there's a lot going on in this ad, which it's pretty cool. It's really nice, and we want to try and work backwards and try and see what was the Guardian trying to say when they made this video. They've done a lot of screenshots of these stories of reporters and of people reading, and they've also taken an old story, Three Little Pigs. Why would they go to the extent of doing that? So we can say that the message they're trying to say is it's possible for there to be more to a story, and even a story as old or as relatable as the Three Little Pigs. And the Guardian wants you to be sure that even if something as hectic as that were to happen, or in this dimension of interdimensional TV, whatever dimension this is, they have the full story on what's going on. And their goal is to provide the true story. Not just the full story, but to provide the true story of exactly what's going on. And that's just it. It's really about them providing coverage and just showing that they can be reliable even in these sort of high concept situations. The Three Little Pigs, I think, is now to really add that impact of the idea that it could be this old story, I think also adding the twist that it's happening in modern times kind of brings attention of the viewer into the ad itself. But generally speaking, they just created all this in order to tell us that they have the ability to be very reliable in their stories, in their journalism in general. Yeah. Next is this classic Peugeot ad of this one dude who really wants a Peugeot, and he has an old Peugeot, and he's basically going to crash it into a wall and have like an elephant sit on it, and all these sort of things happen. And at the end, he's looking at a poster of a Peugeot 206, and his car is pretty close now. And now he's driving one, and everyone's like, bruh, not bad. And he's like, y'all can't even reach my level, please. And yeah, that's the Peugeot ad. So what are they trying to say here? I think some backstory to this, something we should notice before we try to work through, is this guy. This is actually a really old Peugeot. It's not just a random old car that he's about to destroy. It's actually a really old Peugeot. And they had a bunch of people pass in front. You actually don't get enough time to really see it in its entirety. There he's already crashed it. It doesn't look like what it's supposed to be anymore. Everyone's like, look at this guy, out of his mind. So I really felt like the story they were trying to tell here is that Peugeots are timeless, and they now have a new version. And for someone like this guy who has this old car, he can't sell the old car. It's already old and it's already working pretty well. I mean, he did a pretty good job of driving it into this wall. So it's not like the car was messed up or anything. But now, instead of buying the fancy new car for who knows how much, he's now going to just make one himself. And this story ties back into the same thing that I was saying. Once we reduce it, we now start to realize we need to put this guy in a situation where he has a car, but he wants a new car, but he can't sell it. So I think that's probably why they went for this type of character in India, or rather just seeming like, I wouldn't say in India, I'd rather say he just seems like a random guy just chilling in the middle of the street. Like, he has a car and he's just sitting there doing nothing. So we're sort of establishing he's not really the kind of guy who would have the money to be able to buy a new car just off the bat like that, or even think about selling his own. So you know what? I'm a really smart guy. Look at this thing. I mean, the cars, the wheels. I can probably, you know what? Let's do this. And now he finally does it. And, you know, he's a really determined guy. He's really actually going to do all this despite all the people laughing at him and all the work that he's having to put into doing this. It finally comes through. And we get to have this moment of satisfaction, and he's like, and he goes around driving it, showing off to his peoples. Yeah, so there's that story of timelessness, and the genius of this guy. And I think this also ties the same as the other ad for Betika, where we have these guys who are just, this guy just seems like fun. Him and despite his boys not really helping him, they just show up at the end. He just seems like a really, he's having a nice time. He's enjoying himself. It's sort of like a Mr. Bean sort of appeal. Sort of like how Mr. Bean does the silly things and really weird things, but just his facial expressions and the way he does them just makes it feel wholesome and nice to watch, I guess. So that's the Peugeot ad. Next up, we'll look at some high concept stuff. This is the Old Spice ads. It kind of shares the same story as the Coca-Cola one, in that they're really fancy, high concept ideas that are trying to draw attention to what? That are trying to draw attention to the brand. So this one is particularly important for this presentation especially, and for the method we're talking of here, because we're trying to when you look at this ad, you can kind of think that, okay, Old Spice just wanted to do something really fancy that's going to jazz people and have them like, wow, this is really cool. The scene just changed. Wow, really fancy. But that only works when you're looking at it from the perspective of a director. Remember, we're talking about story here, and when we're putting things in the perspective of a director, then the methods of a director are the only way we're gonna see things. We're just gonna see, or rather, of a producer even, we'd be looking at, oh wow, they made a set of the thing moving up, and wow, they made his shot come down. All those are methods and processes that now you'd be thinking of as a director. But us guys are here as people to create the script, create the story, and make this stuff happen. But so we want to change the focus from being the execution of the ad to more of what exactly the ad is and what the story is. So rather than saying Old Spice, the wrong way to look at it would be to say Old Spice wanted to make an ad for... Old Spice wanted to make a manly ad, and so they did it by... Old Spice wanted to make the ad really popular, and they did it by making some really fancy ad with really fancy shots. And that's a really bad way of looking at it, because if you're just saying fancy shots, well, every production is technically fancy shots. There's nothing you've said in that description that specifically applies to this video, and that doesn't really help us now understand why it's dope, why it's viral, and why it works. So if we try and reduce the story itself into a sentence, how would we do that? How would we do that? Let's try and reduce this into what the message might have been and what the execution for that message would be. So for me, I'd say Old Spice were looking to make an ad about the manliest man. And they did this by showing this man who can live just transition between different things as he says it. Like, he speaks into existence things, and that's just how manly this man is. By showing how manly he is, we can attach our brand to that and say Old Spice is also an over-the-top manly brand, and that means that you as a normal human can probably benefit from it. So if we look at it from that story perspective, we can now start seeing, okay, if we're doing the story of the manliest man, what's the manliest thing someone can probably do? And that is, or what's something over the top manly someone would do? And that would be like, dude just came out of the shower and instantly changed, and the next thing I know, it's me and him on a boat. Like, damn. And then, next thing I know, he's on a horse giving me diamonds. Like, it even sounds like a ridiculous story someone's telling you. Like, hey man, I met this guy. Or a chori, oh man, I met this guy. Oh man, am I about to do a chick impression? I'm sorry if I offend anyone in advance. But, oh man, I met this guy, really cool guy, man. He was in the shower looking on manly and stuff. And then we were on the beach. He was looking cool. And then, he gave me some diamonds. Like, the time was going by so fast. Next thing I know, he's on a horse. Like, it was a really dope time. And in that way, they've just kind of strung all this storytelling together and made a really over-the-top guy who accidentally clicks on next. A really over-the-top guy who really oversells the idea of being manly. So yeah, that was some really cool stuff. And when you have the idea of a manly man, it becomes significantly easier for Old Spice themselves to now take all this to take all this to the next level. And when they started doing these old school ads, they also brought in Terry Crews to do a bunch of ads as well, and those were really, I guess they're not here, and those were really cool as well. But they also followed the same thing. He was so manly that his muscles had muscles, and those muscles had muscles, and they had muscles, and there was like this crazy thing going on. So yeah, once you have the bigger picture of it, it's just like Betika. It becomes easier to interpolate and make bigger and better ideas, or make variations of the same idea. All right, so Volvo, they did this ad for Van Damme, and they had him doing a split between two trucks, which was really awesome back in 2013. Do you guys even remember this ad? I think a lot of people tend to forget this. And yeah, it's 110 million views. Is really crazy. And it's really something that took me a while, maybe a couple of years, to learn, was that these trucks are going backwards, which is really cool. What are they trying to say here? Let's not think of a producer. Let's just get Van Damme to stand on top and do a split. That'll be awesome. Like, nah, that's probably not how it would work. How can we work backwards from this? And we could say that Volvo were trying to demonstrate how precise their trucks, the technology in their trucks are. And they did this by showing how they can so precisely control how the trucks can split that Van Damme can do a split on top of it. Yeah, like that's just how precise the thing is. Let's make that comparison between Van Damme's legs. Let's do a stunt at the same time while also demonstrating our trucks. And yeah, so that's what they are doing here. And everything about the speech, everything about the camera zoom and what's happening is all a big demonstration of that specific message that we're saying here. The precision, because even him, he says, all this time of being an actor and practice and all this makes my legs super precise. And now we're making that comparison between his legs and what Volvo is doing. And yeah, and once he does the split, even the stunt in itself is kind of selling this story. It's like, look how bold we are. We just did it on a runway, no harnesses or anything. Like, that's how much we believe in our precision. And well, they just had to give you a disclaimer at the end that also kind of ties to the message if you think about it. They tied a message to say this was just a demo. Don't try this at home, because us guys are just so good at this that we just did it. So yeah, we just continue to look at things that way and to break them down. Here's another one for a Super Bowl, which was talking about investing. It's a very relatable thing. It uses a famous actor, which I found really interesting, because he doesn't use his characters in any way. It's kind of like he's just acting in it. But it's talking about how overwhelming everyone's giving you advice. Everyone's telling you invest now. Everyone's telling you, it's too late now. Some other people are saying get a loan now that it's late, or others are saying don't worry about it. There's all these sort of things going on. So World Simple want to say that investing can be made simpler using their app. So they did this by showing someone who's been overwhelmed by all the information that's available in investing, and how their life can be. Let's not even go that far. Let's just say by showing someone whose life is overwhelmed by all the information there is out there. And we can stop there and say that's the story of this video. Yeah, and that's pretty much it, actually. I'm not even gonna go too much into this one. So let's come back home and let's talk about some local ads. And this time we're looking at Kenchik, which is this one based on so it turns out it falls down, someone picks it up, and when you go in, it finds out that the ball has chicken inside. Where is that zip? That zip was hilarious. What? It even has the foam to hold the shape of the chicken. Pretty bizarre. So this was a really funny ad now, and then at the end he runs away with his chicken. And I think these ads were basically Kenchik saying our food is so tasty, so delicious that even our famous rugby players are willing to make contraptions just to carry it onto the field. And now we can go from there and start to build the story and say, okay, so what if this contraption falls down, someone else picks it up, and he's chased? Like, that's now how this idea has now been developed into this video. If maybe we were to take it into more specific into this video, we can say, by telling the story of when a famous rugby player went to the it has to be a rugby player. When a famous rugby player went onto the field with his chicken carrier that looked like a ball. That's what their story is about, and the things that are going to happen based on that situation he put himself in are based on the message that Kenchik chicken is really good. Because that's what you're going to take up at the end of the day. Like, wow, okay, man, are you really gonna do all this? Is this chicken that good that you went to all this work? Well, you saying that is Kenchik's job, is what Kenchik was aiming for. For you to say, yeah, it must be that good. The same thing happens here with the police guy. This ad took a few times to watch, but basically what happens is he's in the evidence room. She's looking at some chicken and he notices a bone is missing. So he goes and lines up all the guys and he's inspecting, basically looking them over. And then finally in the end, this dude is looking unusually tense. So they check his notebook and find a piece of bone inside. And he's like, Kimboss, unajua vile inakuanga damu. And then there's like a quick plot twist at the end. It looks like they've been set in jail, but it actually turns out they are not. So it turns out he's actually just locked himself up and he's now eating it from inside the cell, which I think the show could have lived without. I think this story could have really ended here. Or maybe they go back, once the bone is caught and they go back to the office, they find the boss is eating the rest of it, or the bigger boss is eating it or something. And then now they're the ones who throw him in jail. I think it shouldn't have been as a plot twist, because at this point we've kind of already finalized the story that we've caught this guy. But also it kind of makes sense. If this guy was caught, then why are they all inside? Like, doesn't make sense. Oh, this lady's face is hilarious. She's like just holding in laughter. It's so funny. Yeah, so that's the idea, that their chicken is so good that they're going to completely disrupt an office. And that office happens to be from the Inspector Mwala show. So they're using the comedy of Inspector Mwala to try and show us just how irresistible this chicken can be. Here's another nice one that I really enjoyed discussing in the group, which is Knorr soup. And we have this lady who comes home. She's cooking some soup. At the same time, she's singing this song about how I love me some Knorr soup. It's pretty nice, pretty catchy, especially if you like 90s music, 80s music. So what are they trying to say here? Knorr soup is trying to say that their soup is so easy to make that this housewife, by telling the story of this housewife who's come home, and she's come home to cook some soup, and it's just so easy that she's singing about it. And this kind of is implied in a few things. Her happiness is so good that she now has time to, as it's boiling, she now has time to make herself up and make sure she's ready for her visitors. Because you see at the end of the video, she's pretty dressed up. In fact, she progressively looks smarter and smarter as the video is going. And as you start, you see she's kind of coming in with her Viondos. See, we weren't doing paper bags even back then. And yeah, even just this shot alone of her blowing her hair is kind of like, oh man, I'm so beat. And no. Isn't it gno? How does she sing it? She says gnos. Gnos. I said she says gnos too, bro. Anyway, so yeah. Nor. It's nor. Is the K silent? Nor. Some nor soup. Okay. So yeah, the nor soup is so nice and so easy to make, yet so delicious that she's dancing around the kitchen being like, damn, I didn't have to buy tomatoes, I didn't have to boil onions for like 5 hours. It was just throwing this thing in the pan with some water, and I go and dress up and do my thing. Or I go and prepare some brisket or something. I'm just not going to say nor anymore. All right, and one last one to close off, or rather not close off, but to kill this off, is these banned commercials. We got links for banned commercials. This was the one for Mpango wa Kando. It was really, really, really controversial. If you ask me, these are the ads that started that thing on Classic FM of Udakus all the time. Because, man, oh man, this thing of Mpango wa Kando has been a meme of middle-class Nairobi lifestyle for the longest time. And I think this ad was a very good example of when that peaked. I mean, it was in an ad. Like, they were bold enough to put it in an ad. They acted in it, and people were paid, and the script was signed off. Like, all these things happened because we knew just how normal this stuff was. And shortly after this is when now we started getting all those stories of King Angi and them saying, maybe it was already there, I don't know. But that's when now I started really to notice that a lot of this infidelity sort of thing as a normal thing, it began to normalize. So everyone's like, unanga Mpango wa Kando. Like, you hear all sorts of this stuff. So this went on air once. Those people who did not participate in said Mpango wa Kando activities were offended. Those who do participate in Mpango wa Kando activities also did not like it. So regardless, this was in poor taste for everyone involved, and it got taken down. But yeah, sign of the times, guys. Sign of the times. So this band commercial was probably by PSI, which is the guys who do awareness for... It's probably PSI. They do awareness for AIDS and unplanned pregnancy, VCT centers. They're the ones who control that stuff. So they probably did this ad as awareness for guys. Like, even though you have a Mpango wa Kando, you're kind of putting your proper other, your actual wife at risk by not only emotionally. Okay, this one wasn't even emotionally. Yeah, emotionally and also in terms of STDs and such. So yeah, bleak times, guys, bleak times. But those are the things that are happening, and they were in a position to feel they needed to make an ad to tell people this stuff ain't right. Yeah. So that's it for the clips that we got in the group. Once again, that was really fun talking about them. I hope you guys learned a lot of stuff. I definitely learned how to say nor, so that all works out for everyone. And yeah, keep trying out this system of company was trying to... Oh wait, let me just add that slide because I need it when I share it. We're going to say company wants to say X. Let's change this layout to this one. X. They told it by using the story Y. All right. So hope that all made sense. So how is this all going to come back to us when we are now writing our own stuff? So companies usually approach you wanting something. By the time they've said we need a video, they already know we need a video for this purpose. There's a new campaign, there's a new product coming out. We've rebranded our packages. We're announcing a new type of Fanta again. There's all different types of things that they've already decided by the time they're approaching you. So when you start to learn how to contextualize the things you see like this, it becomes a lot easier now to reach back when they come to you and say, hey, we need a video that really reaches out to all the middle class Nairobian people right now. We need to tell them that when they buy our phones, they are going to connect and chat, and they're going to, it's going to be super easy for them. I need you to make an ad for that. Okay, so now how do we start doing that? Well, we can now start thinking of, if the objective is this, what kind of story can we tell in order to achieve that objective? And we can now start to look back at stories that have done the same thing in the same way, because now we've watched a few ads. We can now start to think, okay, if we're really trying to say, we want these guys to buy, if we're really trying to tell these guys that we want to buy stuff, we can look at something like the Peugeot ad and start thinking of those timeless ideas. They used it by telling the story of a guy who has had his phone for a long time, and so he now it's a guy who's had his phone for a long time, and instead of buying a new phone, he bashes his phone into a new one, and then uses that new phone to pretend that he has an iPhone. And then, while he's out there pretending he has an iPhone, we say, okay, guys, you don't have to go to this extent. New technology is here. Buy our phone. And once you've recontextualized and stolen the idea, you can then go into production. And hopefully it doesn't get banned. But that's the general idea. Keep watching stuff. Keep trying to think, what was the company trying to say here? How did they do it by telling this story? And the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more professional you become. And then you can learn a better method than this and grow and get even better. And leave us guys here on YouTube talking about this old stuff. I'll probably update it. It's okay. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for coming through so far. We've not bad in terms of time. I was really worried we were gonna take long, but looks like it's worked out. Thanks again. If you guys have any questions, this is also meant to be a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions regarding the videos we've watched so far, anything I've mentioned, if anything doesn't make sense, or maybe I've contradicted myself, feel free to type it in the comments, and you can answer those questions. In the meantime, it's just juice. Over diluted, actually. How do I do that? But hope it's made sense, and you've learned something new. If you knew this all along, let me know as well. Maybe this is just obvious stuff for everyone. No, I need to look that up. I should mute this. You guys got any questions? Feel free to ask. Now is the time. While I fix this. All right. Question: What? Oh, is it doing a color key? Oh, that's why. Okay, there we go. Yes. All right. Question. So, what age bracket do you see most advertised to in Kenya? Most advertised to. We spend a lot of time online. I think it depends on what platform you're talking about. But most of the time, it's middle class guys. Lower middle class, upper middle class, Nairobians are usually the target. That's the money spending um, age group right now. A lot of the time, actually, when the ads come in, you get details on what they're targeting. It depends on on the company as well, because Coke will go for middle-aged people, and young kids and younger people, actually, not kids but young people. Uh, Real estate guys obviously go for older ones. So yeah, it also depends on the company. But majority of the time you'll find like these Betika ads are aimed at middle class guys. So think about that when you're also writing stuff. You need to think about who's watching and what they like. Ooh, almost over there. So keep practicing this stuff, guys. Try and apply this also to writing, directing, animating, design. Just keep looking at stuff, keep comparing them to what you know, and new stuff you're learning. Yeah. Then you become a pro. Remember us when you become a pro. Yeah. Right. Cool. So today's one was pretty short. Thanks everyone for coming through. I think I hope you guys learned some new ideas, some new stuff you can use to improve your skills. If not, sorry for wasting your time. But hopefully I'll still see you next week. We'll have another stream. Just talking about animation. We'll be doing some 2D things. Not 2D necessarily, maybe design things. I'll just try and oh, question. Can we say that ads pretty much try and humanize their brands? I read something somewhere. I just don't remember where. I think you read the trend right now, because I think that was actually a trend before. There's a trend of trying to attach your brand to an emotion, like the way Coke changed to Coke is happiness, and just generally, a lot of guys started to tie their stuff to moments, ideas, moments and emotions. I'd agree and say yes, they do try and humanize their brands, but I still think they've just been doing that generally all along. I think they dip in and out of that approach of trying to go humanize and come back. Because if you think about it, there's that story of the evolution of ads, where it just started as my thing is better than theirs, and then no, but it became about saying mine is the best, and then it became competitive, mine is better than theirs, but then now making comparisons was also advertising your other guy. So there had to be a way to connect your brand to someone. So they started showing just you using it and how happy you are out of it, and then now the story now grows to just moments and happiness, and Tide Pods is happiness, and t-shirts are dope, and enjoy partying with your friends with our shoes and that kind of thing. So it's just an evolution of how ads are done. Yeah. Yeah, commercializing emotions through advertising and everything. Yep, it's like it's they've just figured out another way to connect to people and a deeper level of connecting to people, and one of those is through emotion. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so we'll have another stream next week. I'll be trying to do a demo on something. I think we'll discuss in the group on between now and Monday. I'll be looking to decide by Tuesday based on what you guys think. Do you want to do some Blender stuff? Do you want to do some After Effects, Photoshop? I have a whole line of things, but I think we can go through them in a way that's a lot easier for you guys to follow, and something that's more relevant to you guys here as opposed to random stuff. So yeah, check out the group, check out the chat, and thanks again for coming through for these Hangouts stroke streams. We're just gonna keep going and just keep making more content, and yeah, that's it. Did someone have another question? No. Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, see you on the next one, and thanks so much for coming through, and yeah.